Sweet potatoes are one of my favorite crops to grow, and after today's video you will know everything you need to know about how to grow sweet potatoes, how to start the slips, how to plant, how to care for them, when to harvest, how to cure them, and even how to store them once you've harvested them. But if we haven't met before, my name's Angela from Growing in the Garden, and I love to share garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your own garden. An important thing to know about growing sweet potatoes is they are a warm season crop. Sweet potatoes grow best during warm and even hot weather. They really like a long, warm growing season. So you want to wait to plant sweet potatoes until temperatures have warmed up outside and that soil is nice and warm. Almost any variety of sweet potatoes is going to grow well if you have a nice, long growing season. But if your growing season is shorter, look for varieties such as Beauregard and O. Henry, which are quicker maturing varieties. Usually you're going to plant about 2 to 3 weeks after your last spring frost and that soil temperature has warmed to about 65 degrees. Here in the low desert, we plant sweet potatoes from March through June. Even though we don't plant sweet potatoes until temperatures warm up, it's important to start thinking about planting sweet potatoes because you need to start those slips so they are ready to plant outside when it's warm enough. Begin making sweet potato slips indoors about 8 weeks before you want to plant outside. Starting sweet potato slips is simple. I'm going to share my favorite method and the fastest way to start sweet potato slips. You can start sweet potato slips in a jar of water, but I found it's much quicker if you nestle that sweet potato in a container of soil, give it moisture and light. Before long, roots will form and then sprouts will form. Once the slips have grown to about 5 to 6 inches long, remove them carefully from the sweet potato. Sometimes the roots on the slips come with it. The next step is to put the slips in water so they can grow and develop roots. Allow the sweet potato to continue rooting and producing slips until you have as many as you need. Once you've got your slips, it's time to plant. Choose a location that has good soil and plenty of drainage. Sweet potatoes do not want to sit in soggy soil. Sweet potatoes are a very versatile crop and they grow well in the ground, in raised beds, in containers, and even grow bags. Plant in an area that gets plenty of sunlight, even full sun here in the low desert of Arizona. Plant each of the rooted slips deeply. Bury them up to the top leaves. Space the slips about 12 to 18 inches apart. If your soil is lacking in phosphorus, feed with a starter solution high in phosphorus. This helps to ensure the plants root well. Water your slips well, and they may die back a little bit as they transition, but you should see new growth form and those sweet potatoes just take off. So sweet potatoes grow differently from regular potatoes. Sweet potatoes form from the roots of the sweet potato slip. Each root will thicken into a sweet potato tuber. The greens of sweet potatoes are totally edible and delicious. Occasional small harvests are fine, but it's best to just let those vines grow and provide lots of energy for the tubers that are growing below ground. So make sure those sweet potatoes get plenty of sunlight. If you're running out of room, consider trellising your sweet potatoes. They may even find a nearby trellis and start climbing. As the sweet potatoes grow, check those longer vines occasionally. They may start rooting along the soil or along that raised bed, and you want to lift those up and keep that from happening. Additional rooting takes energy away from the main tubers. You'll have several smaller tubers rather than nice large sweet potatoes. Once sweet potatoes are growing, they're pretty simple. Really, all you have to do is water them deeply occasionally. Deep watering is crucial, especially during hot, dry periods, but let that area dry out a little bit before you water again. Sweet potatoes tolerate dry conditions better than soggy ones. So as the sweet potatoes are growing and taking over the world, you're going to start wondering, okay, when is it time to harvest? When can I harvest these sweet potatoes? So here are a few things to look for before you harvest your sweet potatoes. They're usually ready to harvest between 90 to 120 days after planting. You can dig down a little bit and see how large the tubers are, and if they're at least 3 inches in diameter, that's a good time to harvest. The longer you can leave your sweet potatoes in the ground, the larger the sweet potatoes are going to be. So aim to let them grow as long as possible. You usually want to harvest your sweet potatoes before the first fall frost. So if a frost comes and kills back the vines, get those potatoes out of the ground right away. When you see those vines and leaves turning yellow, that tells you that production is slowing down and harvest time is getting close. Once you've decided it's time to harvest, here are a few tips to make harvesting go a little bit smoother. Cut back all of the vines and loosen the soil around the plant with a spade fork. Carefully look for the primary crown of each plant and use your hands to carefully dig up the tubers. Shake off any excess dirt and handle the tubers really carefully to prevent bruising. The skins are very tender at this point and can bruise easily. So there's a couple of things you don't want to do after you harvest sweet potatoes. You want to keep them out of the sunlight, and you also don't want to wash them off. That will help prolong their storage life. Before storing sweet potatoes, it's important to cure the sweet potatoes. Curing helps the healing of cuts and bruises that occur during harvesting and handling. Curing sweet potatoes increases the storage life, and curing improves the flavor. It helps those starches be converted into sugars, which was what gives sweet potatoes their delicious flavor. Don't skip the step of curing your sweet potatoes. It's not always easy to find a place to cure sweet potatoes. So what I do is I put the sweet potatoes in a plastic grocery bag, and then I tie that bag. I set it in a warm spot inside my house. So you want to do this for about 10 to 14 days. So if that skin has hardened and tightened around the sweet potato, then you will know that you've cured them properly and the curing process is complete. But you don't want to cure sweet potatoes too long because then they might start sprouting. After curing, throw out or immediately use any bruised potatoes. If you've had a successful harvest of sweet potatoes, how you store them is important. Store cured sweet potatoes in a cool 55 to 65 degree Fahrenheit, if possible, dry area for the longest storage. I don't know about you, but I don't have any areas in my house that are 55 to 65 degrees. So if outside temperatures are cool, store the sweet potatoes in the garage in a box with individual potatoes wrapped in newspaper. Once temperatures begin to warm up, bring the box inside to your coolest room. Check the potatoes often and use any sweet potatoes right away that show signs of sprouting or rotting. Hopefully now you know everything you need to know about growing sweet potatoes. I hope you'll give it a try. Thank you so much for watching.